Government elections. I'm joined now by DA Federal Council Chair Helen Zille, as well as UDM Secretary General Bongani Msomi. Babu Msomi, good evening and thank you very much for your time. And Helen, good to have you with us tonight once again on In Focus. Babu Msomi, let's start with you. The political party consultation meeting that happened with the IEC earlier on this morning. Did a majority of the parties understand the reasoning behind the reopening of the registration having this consequential effect on the amendment to the schedule or the timetable of the elections, which essentially then gives the opportunity for the deadline for candidate submissions to be reopened?
Good evening, Chabo, and the viewers at home. Thank you for having me. Before we start with this conversation, Chabo, I would like to take this opportunity to convey, on behalf of my organization, the UDM, a message of condolences to the family of Umamuma Gwaza and her party for her passing away earlier today. But coming to the discussion, I must say that as the UDM, we are quite aware of the implications, and we do understand what does it mean that the IEC has given us an adjusted timetable. As the UDM, I must say that we welcome this decision that has been taken by the IEC to give us the adjusted timelines, because right from the word go, after the proclamation, the first proclamation that was made on the 3rd of August, we had a meeting with the IEC, the NPLC meeting, where almost all the parties vehemently opposed to the timetable that was presented by the IEC, because we were feeling that the timelines were very tight and the parties were not going to be able to do their work timeously. And when the IEC made an application to Concord, the UDM was one of the parties who supported the IEC in its application to the Concord. So I must say also that because of the timelines that were very tight, we as UDM, we were one of those parties who were affected, because in some areas, in provinces like Northwest, KZN, and Mpumalanga, Free State, and some parts in Eastern Cape, we couldn't submit our nominations 100%. So there are areas that needed to be attended to. So this opportunity now is going to give us another chance to do our work satisfactorily, because as I've said, we couldn't submit all of our nominations by the deadline of the 23rd of August.
Helen Zille, there you are. What do you say? The IEC essentially throwing a lifeline to the UDM as well, who couldn't submit their candidates in a number of provinces. The IEC maintaining today that this is a process for all political parties and independent candidates, not for the ANC.
Well, if you believe that, you will believe that Zuma's swimming pool was a fire hydrant. I mean, that is absolute nonsense. We all know that the agenda and the timetable has been there for months. The only part of the timetable that was changed was that the registration weekend in July was cancelled because of the corona spike. Otherwise, the timetable has been there for months and months. And because some parties just assumed that the election would be postponed, they did nothing about the timetable. But we followed the timetable because we knew there could be absolutely no certainties. And we got, for the very first time in our history, a candidate in every single ward in South Africa. The vast majority of other parties met the deadline, as did independent candidates, because everybody works according to the same rules. You can't have some rules for some people and other rules for other people. And the IEC has always done it that way. So, for example, in 2016, when the late Zanele Magwaza Msibi, and I also extend my condolences on her passing, but when her party did not meet a deadline in 2016, they were disqualified from the whole election. Equally, the IFP in 2011 were disqualified from a whole number of municipalities because they didn't meet a deadline.
Yeah.
It has always worked like that.
Right.
Everybody knows it has always worked like that.
Right.
And there was no surprise of the timetable on the 3rd when the election was promulgated. The timetable had already been there for a very long time.
So are you bringing then into question, Helen, the decision, the order of the court to say open voter registration? Because you couldn't have the one without the other, because in essence,
of course you can.
As it is
They
explained. So what you're saying is then voter registration would be open. There are individual candidates there that have a right to vote, but also have a right to stand as candidates. How will they then be submitted into the candidate list if that process is not reopened?
Now you're believing the fire pool argument. Truly, this is just an entire sleight of hand. And you surely can see through this manipulation.
What is the fire pool argument about that? I'm asking you that question. Are you saying those who register to vote should not be given an opportunity to register as candidates?
Well, first of all, registration has been opened all the time, despite the absence of a registration weekend. Anyone who wanted to stand as a candidate could have registered online, could have gone to a Home Affairs office, could have done anything all the time. You don't have to wait for a registration weekend to do it. The second point is that voter registration is an entirely separate process from candidate registration.
Yes.
They have nothing to do with each other.
Yes.
Now, there are some candidates that were put forward, even by the DA, who weren't registered in their specific municipalities, and they were noted by the IEC as exceptions. And the minute they register, they will be regularized. So there's no need at all to open candidate registration if you're opening voter registration. The reason that you're opening voter registration is because the IEC cancelled the voter registration weekend on the 16th and the 17th of July.
Yes.
There was no change to the timetable for candidate registration, and there is no need whatsoever to change it now. Anybody could have registered online if they were that keen to be a candidate. They could have gone to a Home Affairs office and registered, and they could even have applied to be a candidate. And what
would be the process for verifying their registration?
You go online onto the IEC's website and check.
How would the IEC verify their registration?
Well, the bottom line is if they applied to be a candidate and they weren't registered, the IEC system would throw them up as what is called an exception. So we have a couple of people who were thrown up as exceptions because they were registered but not in the municipalities.
Yes, to be later verified through what exactly, Helen?
Through their registration.
Yes.
Because voter registration is
for
allowed.
You to be verified as a candidate, you would need to have been registered on the voters' roll.
Yes, but you're not understanding, Thabo. There's a difference between voter registration and candidate registration. You could put your name in as a candidate if you weren't registered. You were thrown up as an exception. The minute you register as a voter, you get regularized.
UDM leader, Secretary General Msomi, what do you say to that argument that there was really no need to open the candidate list?
No, you know what, if you listen to what my colleague, Ms. Zille, is saying, you can say she's not living here in South Africa. Because she is very much aware that this country has been at level 4, where the meetings were prohibited. So parties like ours could not have meetings for the selection of their candidates. And also, if she speaks of Home Affairs offices, our people have been discouraged to visit or to make warm visits to our offices or to government offices because of the protocols that have been put in place to curb the spread of the coronavirus. So for her to say people could easily go to Home Affairs is unbelievable. But I must say also that we must understand that this country, South Africa, is one of the countries which has still have this inequality in the world. So we cannot expect people who are staying in rural areas that they will be able to use online facilities as the people who are staying in towns or in urban areas.
Unfortunately,
So
we are out of time, so I'm going to have to leave it there for tonight. But I get the point, and the point has been made. And Helen, good luck. Wish you the best with your legal challenge as well. And thank you for coming on this evening. Federal Council Chairperson for the Democratic Alliance, Helen Zille, UDM Secretary General Bongani Msomi.